And so here we are. We have about 70 minutes together, and we absolutely promise you that, as always, we have so much to share, but we're going to make sure that we leave 15 or 20 minutes for you to talk with each other and with us about anything that's on your mind. I'm up here this afternoon with Ann Dalton, our Chief Officer for Strategic Initiatives. Woo. Janine Lasser, Director of Programs. And Maureen Mackey, our Chief Operating Officer. Yay! Okay, so today we're going to tell you a little bit about how we got to where we are, what we've been doing this past year, and what we're going to be doing in the coming year. And, ta-da! We're going to make this interactive. Woo! So, technology willing. So if everyone will get out their smartphones or their iPads, their tablets, and go to the conference app, agenda, scroll down to service dialogue, and look at the top for a tab that says polls. Got it? All right, I'm going to ask the first question. And if you don't have a phone or a tablet, you can text your answer to us. Question number 1. This is my first service dialogue. Yes, no, can't remember. Okay, all right, I will do that again. Go get on the conference app. Go to the agenda, then get to service dialogue, scroll down to service dialogue. Got it? Okay, so we'll give a few more seconds for you to tell us. And wow, 60% of you, this is your first service dialogue. Well, we hope we won't disappoint you. I had no idea that there were so many people here who had not had one of these experiences before. So welcome. Now there's going to be lots more questions as we go through this dialogue, so be ready. Our world today is increasingly complex. Change is happening more rapidly, and every time you think you're just about to catch up, it gets a little farther ahead of you, and it's so hard to get ahead of the curve. So how are you going to do that? Because every smart company thinks it's really important to try to figure out how to get ahead of that curve. And we want to do that because we don't want to be the next Radio Shack. And very few of us will ever be the next Uber. And it's really hard to plan to have the next amazing viral Ice Bucket Challenge. Adam Levine. So, the challenges are especially great for legacy organizations like ours, when it's so important to keep our heritage and yet move forward to reflect the women of today and tomorrow. And also to build that internal muscle, that flexibility, so that we can be ready and so that we can change even more and more rapidly. Because that next disruptive technology, that next new business model is right around the corner. And that's really what we've been trying to do for the past several years in our transformation work, in our rollout, our roadmap for the future. Our path began several years ago with a major quantitative study. The results were so exciting. There are 11 million women in the USA alone who could be Junior League members because they share our values around the importance of volunteering. They want to do so in a structured environment, and they want to be with like-minded women. So how great is that? That good news spurred us on to say, what more can we do to make sure that we really attract those women? And this is what our members told us. We want great community impact work. We want a league that is really well run, so it makes it easy for us to do that community work. We want a membership experience that's flexible and fits our lives today. And we want to be able to connect and network with those like-minded women. We are a membership organization. And at the end of the day, I'd like to think of the Junior League, all of us together, as a great big magnet, the magnet for modern women. And I'd like to think about all of these women over here, inescapably drawn to the power of that great big Junior League magnet. And they can't resist because of our community work, because of the structure, because of the flexibility, and because of the opportunity to connect and network. The Junior League magnet for the modern day woman. Or said another way, the ultimate chick magnet. That's the Junior League. So we explored all of that with you. You were very much a part of this journey. We started with design teams to help us figure out how to really talk about the questions. Then we took it into action learning teams, 13 teams and 79 leagues who came up with innovations to answer the questions about community impact and league governance and membership. And then we began our transformation rollout just this past year, where 90 leagues have joined us on the journey to learn and experience and roll out what the action learning teams and the design teams taught us. And that leads me to poll question number 2. My league is part of one of the 2 transformation rollouts. Yes, we're in the community impact rollout. I don't have to read these answers to you. All right, well, that was pretty instantaneous. Let's see. Oh, even more. Okay. Well, this is really interesting because in total, if 90 leagues are in one of the rollouts, that's about a third of the leagues. And yet you are very well represented in this room. About 55% of you in this room are in one of those transformation rollouts. So thank you for being part of that expansion of all of the things that we've learned. And you know, it's one thing to create tools and resources, to hold virtual roundtables and webinars, which are all part of our transformation process. But the question at the end of the day is all of this really making a difference? I love that phrase from Alice in Wonderland when the Cheshire Cat said, "If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there." He was a little snarky, but it's really true. And knowing there is really critical to all of us at AJLI. So just last month, we took our first step toward measuring what all of this is really meaning in your leagues by conducting a quantitative study of the members of the Transformation Rollout Leagues. This study provides the baseline as we go forward. We have 13 benchmarks that we've established that tell us that we're getting there. And there's 25 questions around those benchmarks. And they're around community impact, league governance, and membership. We surveyed over 80 leagues. We sent 35,000 emails. And we got a 15% response rate. So we know that the results of this are reliable for the group that was researched. So that's pretty exciting. We're not going to be able to go through all of the 13 benchmarks and 26 questions today, but we're going to share a little bit of the data. And you know, it's going to be really interesting to see what those of you in this room say versus how your members looked at these questions. So let's start with a community impact question. My league has a clearly articulated community impact strategy. Some of you are not answering. All right, I think there's a few more of you out there. Good, good. Okay, well, this is really, really interesting. About 47%, 46% of you think that your league does have a clearly articulated community impact strategy, which means that 50-some percent of you don't. And in fact, some of you are kind of on the fence about that. 23% don't agree or disagree. You're just kind of, 24%, in fact, 32% of you disagree or strongly disagree. So there certainly is an opportunity for those of you to really get in touch with what that strategy should be. But let me tell you what your members said. They were much more positive than you in this room. So they either really like what you're doing or they don't know what strategy is. And I'll leave that up to you to decide. But this is how your members view things, so you should feel pretty good, right? All right, let's take a question about governance and management. My league's board is strategic in their outlook and action. Okay, a few more. We see those in agreement growing. So 65%, that's close to 2/3 of you believe that your board is strategic. Again, there's a pretty good number of you who are on the neutral to downside there. So I think for those of you in these leadership positions on the board, that's something that you want to continue to strive to improve. Well, what did your members say about you? And once again, they were more positive. So, again, they're giving you more credit than you're giving yourselves. But of course, when you're in a leadership position, you always want to do more and try harder. And obviously, there still are about a quarter of your members, maybe a little bit more than that, who don't agree. And when you've got 25% of your board not thinking that it's very strategic, that is something to continue to think about and worry about. All right, let's take a look at a membership question. My interests and skills are well used in the league. Well, this is one that you're pretty bully about. I would say continually bully. 93% of you believe that. And I think that may be part of the joy of being in a leadership position. So let's see what your members said about this one. So, again, not terrible. Many league members, about 63%, so about 2/3, do think that their skills are well used. But that means 1/3 of your members, 33%, don't really feel that way. And when you think about the possibility of membership declines, of those people who are kind of on the fence about continuing their membership, if 1/3 of your membership decided to walk away, you'd be in big trouble. So I think that's something to kind of move those neutral people up. All right, one more membership question. My league experience has helped me to obtain a civic or community leadership position. And by that we mean a position on a nonprofit board, serving on board, holding an elected or appointed office, working for a nonprofit organization, any of these because of your junior league experience. Well, let's see, we're going to let a few more come in. Oh, you liked answering this question. I think this has the most responses. So this is really interesting. More than half of you, about half of you really, believe that the Junior League helped you get there. And clearly, when you listen to people like the Mary Harriman Award winner today, the Junior League has the potential to really do that for all of you. So those of you in leadership positions, I would consider it a challenge to see where else you can take your leadership to, if not now while you're actively in leadership in the league when you're after it. But what did your members say? This is pretty interesting. Your general members, which range from sustainers to new members, tell us that about 40% of them have gotten some kind of community and civic leadership position because of the Junior League. So although it's not 52%, I think that's still a pretty good number, and certainly something that we can continue to work on as we look at ourselves as this hotbed of developing women as community and civic leaders, and it clearly is something that we do deliver to the women who want that. So this is all really good news. I know that many of you have been curious about how the transformation rollout has been going, because we're coming up on, close to a year, not quite, of the first rollout. And so Janine and Ann are going to talk a little bit about what's actually been going on. And we're going to, I always forget, there's going to be future surveys. We're going to repeat this survey among the baseline leagues in about 18 months to see if we've moved the needle. And there'll be a baseline for the leagues that participate in next year's rollouts. And if anybody else would just like this kind of information and would allow us to reach out to your members, we'll be happy to do that. And now, really and truly, I am going to turn loose this lectern and turn things over to Janine, who will go first.
So Susan has shared some of the details of our journey towards transformation and how we arrived at this phase of the rollout. So I am, of course, thrilled to share with you what we've been doing in community impact. So for those of you who have not really been part of the rollout, let me talk a little bit about what some of the elements are of a successful community impact approach using an issue-based approach. And firstly, I want to say that the purpose of the community impact rollout was for leagues to establish the operating environment in which they would prepare and execute their community action plans using an issue-based approach to community impact. So some of the elements, knowing what's going on in your community. Being able to make a case for change depends on your understanding of the problems and the issues, and then being able to explain the context in which these exist. Secondly, we put a lot of emphasis on a highly participatory process involving your membership because we believe that an engaged membership is the heart and the soul of your community strategy. Thirdly, know the change that you want to make. Define the boundaries of your impact and who will be affected by this. Only then will you be in a position to design your strategies and your projects. Respond to the needs with well-considered and thoughtful strategies aimed at real change, and then build the support for your plan in communities with whom you are working. Now, of course, for many leagues, they think that this may mean that we should go out and start something, but it could equally mean that you reinforce the existing initiatives that are occurring in your communities, because you'll probably find many other organizations and individuals share the same urgency for change, and together you are more likely to prevail. So community impact is really about relationships. It's about building trust across very diverse stakeholders who share a similar passion and urgency for change. The stakeholder networks are, of course, very vital to social impact, and so is citizen participation. So in the long run, impact should be about empowering the various publics to share in the responsibility of community building. So this is where we would like our community impact journey to take us. So let me tell you a little bit about what has happened this year in the rollout. So while community engagement and change is the end game, the rollout is primarily about establishing the operating systems to ensure that leagues can endure the journey to impact. So over 95% of leagues who started the rollout have stayed the course, with a handful that have elected to step back and re-engage in the next round. So let me say this. Many leagues who came on board did not fully assess their capacity to remain in the process, and so they slowed their pace. And this is not a bad thing, and in fact, this is actually encouraged, because leagues need to understand their own capacity and their tolerance for change. However, most of the remaining 50 leagues will implement the rollout over the next 18 to 24-month period. Shortly after annual conference, AJLI will be reaching out to you to sign on to the next round, and Ann Dalton is going to share the details of the rollout schedule with you, as well as sharing the progress of the governance and management rollout over the past year. Ann.
Thank you, Janine. So the next issue we tackled was our governance and management operations based on research that things weren't working quite as well as they might. Board members reported feeling a lack of strategic direction and felt they spent more of their time in the weeds. Poorly executed programs, fundraisers, and meetings because efforts weren't coordinated and aligned toward clear goals. Members feeling that the league just wasn't well run. And increasingly, members not coming forward for leadership. Burnout was on the rise. So we organized 3 action learning teams. We were pretty certain that continuing with our blended tradition of governance and management with the responsibilities of both in the hand of a part-time board wasn't working. To govern well, a board needs to have time to decide the strategic future of the organization, time that cannot be disrupted by daily demands. So, what did they come up with? While there's some variability in how this model can work, essentially it is a governing board typically made up of 4 officers, an executive vice president or EVP, 3 to 5 board members, a sustainer director, and the nominating director. A management team that is chaired by the EVP plus 4 to 6 functional managers, typically those are the positions that were council vice presidents. In this new structure, the board sets the long-term direction and adopts policies that define the operating conditions that must be maintained. The management team then develops the programs, activities, and operations in line with that guidance. The nominating process changes to focus more on identifying the competencies and skills for strategic governance and effective management, and shifts to an application-based interview approach rather than placement. But let me say a little bit more about this EVP position. It's the general name, though there are some other titles that are used. It is this position that manages the management team. And to provide support and resources for this new position, just as AJLI already invests in leadership development for presidents and presidents-elect, we will launch a new training conference for EVPs this July at AJLI headquarters in New York City. Registration will open after annual conference, so stay tuned. To date, we estimate approximately 24 of the 44 rollout leagues will adopt the new structure this year, with most of the rest finishing their transformation by the end of 2016. So how's it working? Boards are reporting seeing the benefits of being able to focus on longer-term future issues. Management is reporting greater clarity of role and much more freedom to be creative. And the leagues are also seeing their leadership pipelines begin to grow again. Are there challenges? Yes, of course. This is quite a shift. I think the 3 areas of greatest challenge are refining strategic plans so that they really are about results, understanding how to write policy that does set limits but does not overly dictate, and building a really collaborative communication system between the board and the management team. So how can you join this movement? As with the community impact effort, we will start a second cohort of leagues this summer. Sign-ups will begin immediately after annual conference. Some of you are signed up for a workshop tomorrow that will go into more detail about these rollouts. I would encourage others of you to join us, but unfortunately that workshop is at capacity and has been closed. However, we will do a webinar on May 13th that will cover the same material, so please stay tuned. And now, drum roll, membership. From the very beginning, we have known that the centerpiece of our challenge, as well as our opportunity, was membership. We are in the membership business, after all. Since its earliest days, the Junior League has been about creating opportunities for women to pursue community leadership through volunteer service. In those early days, the member lacked experience around the issues of community because educational, work, and leadership opportunities that abound today were virtually non-existent for women. The Junior League was part of the movement to change that dynamic. So it made sense that our provisional course and much of our training was understandably standardized, and the League was very much the first teacher in guiding the members' experience and efforts. Fast forward to today, that picture has changed quite dramatically. Not only are most new members now of widely varying ages, Virtually all have completed college. Increasingly, they have had other volunteer experiences, either in school or with other organizations. Most are employed. Some are starting families, while others have seen their last child off to college. Some are starting careers, while others have achieved positions of leadership within their chosen professions. In a word, there is great variability of experience, interest, and life stage. Thus, our challenge around the membership experience was significant. How do we shift from a one-size-fits-all process to one that leverages the experiences women bring to the Junior League while still offering new opportunities and deepened experiences? How do we sustain the connections among and between members when we are now part-time volunteers with myriad other responsibilities and interests outside of the Junior League? How do we ensure the flexibility that our lives demand today, a flexibility that needs to be decided by the member based on her circumstances and cannot be standardized or earned? How do we ensure the work of the Junior League, the experiential learning coupled with formal skill development that has been our cornerstone from the beginning, effectively supports a member's personal and leadership development goals and interests? And how do we make all of those changes and still ensure that the Junior League membership translates into the quality women's community leadership experience that has been our brand promise for 114 years? So the alt started by working on flexibility, new onboarding systems that maximize a member's skills at the outsets, ongoing ways to enable the sustainer to remain engaged, and deeper opportunities for mentoring. And then we created the framework that would enable us to connect the pieces together. And here are the three elements. Voice and choice. All members have a voice in actively guiding the League's strategic direction, coupled with choice in how each member chooses to engage with the mission. Talent deployment. The League is effective in matching the members' interests and talents with high-quality programs and activities that support each member's development goals. Multiple connections. There are ample opportunities for meaningful connection throughout the membership experience. These opportunities take different forms and support the ability of the member to choose those which are of greatest interest to her. So how does it all come together? Voice and choice. Deepening and broadening the ability of all members to have voice in the broad direction of the League is a lot of what the new governance structure is all about, and this is coupled with members being more integrally involved in identifying the community issues on which programs and activities will be built. So voice in the overall direction of the League and choice in how the member decides what her community involvement will be. Talent deployment. This is the process by which the members' interests are matched with what the League is doing. It starts with a member compact through which the member annually affirms her commitment to the Junior League mission, indicates how much time she has to contribute, agrees to work with the League to put an individual plan together that meets her time availability, commits to engaging with the League to be a connected member, even if she happens to be on leave, and she pays her dues. The system of talent assessment relies on a different kind of job description that not only identifies what the work will be, but more importantly identifies what skills and experiences the member will acquire along with the time expectations that the job will hold. And that job placement continues to be enhanced through formal learning development managed by the League, including opportunities for mentoring that provide ongoing guidance as the member pursues her leadership journey. Connections. It is indeed all about connections, and those connections take many different forms in this new model. Varied meeting formats tied closely to the League's community efforts. Opt-in events that are not necessarily fundraisers that give members access to interesting speakers and experiences. Because she is a Junior League member, these opportunities become a perk of membership. Mentoring, as mentioned earlier, which creates individual opportunities to set and pursue personal and leadership goals. AJLI is a part of this system as well, as you will hear a little bit more about in a few minutes. AJLI's New One Network is in part designed to connect members beyond their local Junior League. AJLI meetings and conferences are also a way that other members can engage with the wider Junior League movement. Learning journeys, interest groups, the list goes on. So what am I not saying is a part of this new membership model? This new framework is not based on requirements. Rather, it is built on the member choosing her level of engagement with the expectation that she will follow through or renegotiate as needed. This new framework is not based on requiring meeting attendance. Rather, it presumes that the league offers a variety of opportunities for members to come together to learn and share and celebrate, and that the member will choose those that interest her and meet her time availability. Again, all within the wider frame of the Junior League mission. Why do we believe it will work? The majority of our members want a quality, well-organized experience that translates into meaningful change in the community. Let's plan for them rather than the handful of members who may be underperforming. You can't compel Thank you. You can't compel participation, but you can create an environment that is attractive and compelling. So, how do you sign on? Sign-on will occur immediately following annual conference at the same time that the second cohorts of governance management and community impact start. However, membership is going to look different. From July to November, roughly, there will be monthly webinars to explore the premises of the new framework and examine how a league would organize itself to begin the change. All leagues are invited to participate in those education sessions, regardless of whether they choose to adopt the new member model down the road. Then, late 2015, those leagues that are interested in adopting the new model will sign up and move forward to design their implementation plan in conjunction with AJLI. 2016, implementation begins, and it will follow the guided learning model with some modifications, depending on what areas a league is focusing on: voice choice, talent deployment, connections. Questions? Do I have to have already done governance and management or community impact to participate? Not necessarily, as long as you understand that some of the implementation of this new model will change how the board operates as well as how the league approaches its community work. Can we opt in for membership as well as governance and management or community impact? Our concern is about managing a lot of change, and so if your league thinks it might want to participate in multiple rollout efforts, we should talk so that we can explore how and if it would work to your benefit. So in closing, as with all of our work in the transformation rollout, we have learned a great deal from individual junior leagues and expect to continue to partner with you to implement the different elements of the new membership model. We want to work with you to ensure the different parts of the model are designed for your league's needs. And we know that many of you currently have elements of your membership experience that fit with the new model, and we want to be able to disseminate those to other leagues. While there will be some messiness along the way, we are confident that we have the right framework to transform the membership experience. And now, back to Susan.
Thank you, Anne, and hello again. I'm going to spend just a few minutes updating you on One Network, which is the critical infrastructure that makes all of this networking and connected organization so exciting. This is what's been going on, what we've accomplished this past year. Single sign-on, 104 junior leagues, representing 73% of our junior league members. These members now have single sign-on. They can toggle seamlessly between their league's website and AJLI's website for greater access to the tools and resources, the ideas and materials that are going to make their league membership more exciting and impactful. And that is so exciting to us. And we're already beginning to see an increase in the use of the resources because of this. Member Essentials, which is our platform to help smaller leagues manage their member data and placements and create their league profile. So this is for primarily leagues that don't work with Digital Cheetah or Volunteer Matters, sorry. And so if you want to know more about this, you should check with Dave Brikita and Michelle Gorenstein at the tech table. The League Admin Portal, which provides access to a lot of key administrative functions, including a new league profile, which I'll talk about in just a second. So this is where our legacy e-update system and a new member transfer system and a new billing system will all be housed. And they'll go live during the 2015-16 year. Now the league profile. This is similar to a profile that you might see for someone on LinkedIn or Facebook, but it's about a league, not about a person. So this is going to tell all the other leagues about your league. What sorts of league operations, government, governance, membership practices, fund development, and training programs do you have? And just a little bit further down the road, what are your community programs and projects? It's going to be in a real-time way for your league to input information about all that you do. And so in the future, once you've input this information, you will have access to each other's information. And it will feed a range of networking and collaborating and business intelligence capabilities that will enable you to search information about other leagues and leagues' programs and projects and strategies. It'll enable you to search across the association. To collaborate, because we'll be providing collaboration tools with leagues, with other areas of interest. It will provide macro data that will enable you to compare your league's performance with all of the leagues in the association. What do we do better? What are some areas that we might want to focus on? And it will enable you to seek out like-minded women across the association who hold the same position in the league, who may hold different kinds of leadership positions outside the league, who are interested in the same things that you're interested in. And all of these are coming down the road. But they can't happen without your help. Uploading your league's information is certainly not an easy thing, but I can tell you that uploading it and keeping it up to date is a whole lot easier than in the olden days when we created the league profile by sending out a 300-page survey that then was divided up among all your committee chairs and everybody had to fill in this information. So this is a one-shot kind of let's get it going and then it'll be easy to keep it up to date kind of thing. And so we're very excited about what that brings to the future for us. So I'm going to ask another poll question. Has your league begun to fill out your league profile? Yes, no, and yikes, what is a profile? Okay, well, 17% of you are yes. Thank you very much. No, and what is it are very good questions. And again, if you have questions about what's really in the profile, be sure to check at our technology table. We're still answering that. Okay. Well, let me just share with you the list of leagues who have begun. And you can see that they come from all across the association, and they're large and mid-size and small. So thank you, leagues, for being in the vanguard of this. So our plans for the coming year. Let me just talk a little bit about that because we have a new strategic plan and a budget that you all saw in the call to conference. These plans were heavily influenced by what those of you who were at Fall Leadership told us that you wanted more of. An easier website to navigate, more tools and templates, more training on specific issues, helping us connect better online, more brand promotion and advertising. These sound familiar, right? And they're in our plans. Our overarching work, as it is, that cuts across everything we do, is really our 6 in-person conferences, which are no small feat, 3 transformation rollouts, all 6 league learning portals launched, and the 1 network rollout. So those are big overarching projects. And then there's a lot going on in all the other areas, and I know you read the call to conference, so I'm not going to go into great detail about other services we provide you, about what we have underway for marketing, about fund development, because we've committed to not only diversifying our own funds, but also yours, and we've made a lot of progress this past year. I particularly just want to talk about Colgate-Palmolive, who has really upped their support of the organization, and because of their support, for the next 3 years, we're going to be offering 2 Community Impact Awards. Those, yes. And it starts tomorrow night. 2 leagues are going to win $10,000 each for the Community Impact programs. So that is really exciting. And a great new relationship with Lincoln Motor Car. I know many of you have already taken the test drives. That's great. We're going to continue that program. The local league gets money, and you get a $20 gift certificate. But there's all kinds of other benefits, and I know many of you attended the pre-session with Lincoln, and they were very excited about the group And you were very excited about all of the things that can be offered to you, including local relationships, your league with the local Lincoln dealer, and the Junior League of Wilmington, North Carolina has been doing that for 3 years now. So if you want to check with them, they can tell you how it works. So AJLI's Chief Operating Officer, Maureen Mackey, is going to tell you a little bit about the numbers that underpin all of this.
Thank you, Susan, and good afternoon, everyone. I'll be spending just a few minutes giving you the highlights of our 2015-16 draft budgets. I'll be talking about both our operating budget and our capital budget, essentially the numbers behind all the exciting work that my colleagues have just described for you. We'll start with the operating budget, and first of all, and most importantly, as Ellen mentioned yesterday, this will be the third year in a row where we're planning a break-even budget for the year. We achieved a surplus last year, and things are on track this year to achieve the same. So we feel this current budget is quite realistic. As you can see from the slide, total revenues are projected to be about $7.7 million, a very modest increase from this year's budget of 1.5%. And our expenses are budgeted at a total of $7.5 million, an increase of 1.7%. We budgeted for a decrease in depreciation expense to yield a bottom line approximately the same as the current year's budget, about $14,000 compared to $12,000. The budget reflects our continued emphasis on our important transformation work as we focus our efforts on one network and the rollouts in community impact, governance and management, the new membership model, and continue the development of the important learning resources that are so essential for that work. So our revenues and expenses budgeted are much in line with this year as this work moves along. On the revenue side, compared to the current year budget, the most significant changes are an increase in conference fee revenue, as we've been experiencing an increase in attendance, and we're also raising the ODI fee from $295 to $325. We're also budgeting for the great success Susan spoke about in the fund development arena. And we're also continuing our revenue diversification through increased boutique sales, as we've added quite a number of new and exciting products, so I hope you'll all stop by the boutique while you're here at the conference and take advantage of that. Moving on to expenses, again, our budgeted expenses are very similar to the current year. Where we are seeing increases is primarily in the conference expense area, as these costs are rising in a number of areas. One is because of the increase in attendance I just mentioned, and the other is increases in food and beverage costs and audiovisual costs as the hotel market is really improving. We're also seeing increases in some technology costs associated with internet access and the wonderful new conference app that you're all enjoying so much. Moving on to the capital budget, you see we're budgeting for a total of $184,000, and that's a decline from the current year budget of $111,000. And that decrease is in the One Network area, and while the amounts devoted to One Network are still significant, they will start to decline as this project moves into phase 3. We'll be gearing up for a related project, however, and that's a reimagining of the member online and mobile experience. You're getting a taste for this with the conference app, but we want the rest of your experience with AJLI to be just as similarly mobile friendly. And so we'll be working on that project beginning next year, and you see the first phase of that in this year's capital budget. Those are really the most significant items in the capital budget. You'll see there are a number of other miscellaneous additions for hardware and software and some other web development, but basically those are the most major amounts. And I think that's it for the numbers.
Thank you, Maureen. And I have one last poll question. I have taken a service trip or volunteer vacation. 23%. That's actually pretty good. That's about twice the national average of people who have taken volunteer vacations. And I can tell you that this room has two very special people who took a volunteer vacation not so very long ago. And so we've asked them to share a little bit about their experience on the first ever Junior League volunteer vacation through cross-cultural solutions. Strategically, this was part of our commitment to being an international organization. And also, per research done, this kind of trip is really important to our younger members, the millennials, who really relate with this. So I am so pleased to introduce my great friends, Jill Skogheim, who's the PE from the Junior League of St. Paul, and Shannon Schaefer-Cartez from the Junior League of Roanoke Valley, who will share a bit of their experience with you. There's your first slide. You use that side.
All right. Well, Jill and I did have the pleasure of participating in the first AJLI organized mission trip through Cross Cultural Solutions. They have a table out front from January 31st to February 7th of this year. And there were about 15 Junior League members attending, including Susan, Ellen Rose, who I think I saw sitting back there, Carol Scott, and former AJLI leaders Ruth McGuire and Karen Miller. I'm sure they belong to some of your leagues. This one's yours.
Do you want to just click it? Is it already switched?
It's already switched.
Okay. The service projects were certainly a highlight of our time in Guatemala. My placement was at the school Guatemaltecos Extraordinarios, the School of Extraordinary Steps that was located in the city dump district of Guatemala City. The students at the school were defined by staff as borderline delinquent, meaning they had been kicked out of another school prior to coming to the School of Extraordinary Steps. We did 2 areas of work at the school, the first being improvements. We cleaned and painted the concrete at the playground, made a hopscotch board for the kids to play with, and painted stenciled feet up the walls of the stairs to symbolize the extraordinary steps that the students would be taking by being at the school. The other area of work is we each were placed with the classroom. Some of the pictures you see are the classroom I was in. That's the picture with the color splotches on the wall. You see the playground, and you also see some of the kids that I worked with and the certificates they presented to all of us at the end. I think working in the primary classroom with the teachers was probably a highlight of my experience, and I learned so much, though I'm not really a Spanish speaker at all, and was able to make such a connection with the kids in such a short time.
All right. Next slide is mine. This was the location where I volunteered with my group. It was Casita Amarilla, and this was a daycare located also in the city dump area of the city, of Guatemala City. We were able to help with the babies. You can see one of the Junior League members from Utah was able to bring her daughter on the trip, which was a really great experience for all of us and for her. So we volunteered with the babies and the children. We helped with snack time. We played with the children. There were a couple of German girls who were on their break year, and they were there teaching English to the students, so we were able to help with that, although I'm not fluent in Spanish. But it didn't prove to be any sort of issue. And we also painted the top picture. We painted that wall. That was the entryway of the daycare, and it was just a drab white. And so we painted it just to brighten it up, and we included in the children by painting their hands and having them put handprints on the wall. The challenge with this was there was no running water in the facility, so we had to wash their hands in pails and with buckets of water. I think that's it for that one.
Marina Garola was a home for disabled children. Carol Scott is pictured, as well as Ruth McGuire, volunteering there. Some of the highlights we heard from the volunteers there were the opportunity to take the group of kids to a local park every day. Without the volunteers, there's not enough staff at the home for the children to be able to leave the facility at all. So it's a highlight for all of them to know that the volunteers are there and to experience the outdoors together and just have more of that one-on-one connection and time. Philomena was one of the more particularly challenging kids to feed and work with, but I believe both Ruth and Carol were able to connect with her quite a bit throughout their week there.
All right, and the last volunteer site was San Vicente de Paul, and this was a facility for elderly women, excuse me. And if anyone sat in on Susan's storytelling session, you know the close relationship that she formed with one of the residents despite the language barrier. They spent much of the week making cascarones, or confetti-filled eggs, pica pica, right, Ellen? They made these. It's a Mardi Gras tradition, and the tradition is to take them, come up behind somebody and smash it on their head, and the confetti comes out. It's a Mardi Gras thing. So they sell about 10,000 of these. Is that 10,000 of these? So they spend a lot of time making these eggs. So they helped with that. They also pampered the ladies by painting their nails, and they rounded out their time with a party complete with food from the local bakery and a piñata.
Home base. I think both Shannon and I have mentioned it already, but home base was what the name affectionately referred to where we stayed by the CCS staff. The large picture you see is the courtyard area. Around that was the dining area, the kitchen, and then our rooms and a little sitting area. The accommodations were bunk bed style, as you see several of the ladies there. And Virginia, when she gave us the initial tour upon arrival, let us know that though the accommodations weren't first class, everything was first class in love. And we certainly found that to be true from all the staff being warm and welcoming. Julieta is pictured there, and she was a maid and one of the cooks. She was responsible for making our beds every day and changing the linens and attending to things during the day. And then Don Enrique was our guard. He was there in the middle of the night if you happened to get up. He was always there to greet us when we returned in the evening and let us back in, and just a part of the Guatemalan life that to have someone to be secure at a certain economic level. And though we never felt safe, we certainly welcomed all the staff and enjoyed interacting with them as well.
We never felt unsafe.
Did I say not safe? Yeah. Sorry about that. Thanks, Shannon.
Makes you want to go, right?
So in addition to the volunteering and hanging out at the home base, we also had time for cultural activities. So we spent the mornings volunteering. We would come back to home base for lunch, and then we would spend the afternoon doing cultural activities. So one of the days, actually our first day here, it was the Sunday, so we didn't have any volunteering, but we all decided as a group to travel to Lake Atitlan. And this was our first full day. It was a fabulous opportunity to get to know each other and see how beautiful Guatemala is. So we made 3 stops around this lake. We stopped at Santiago, San Antonio, and San Pedro. So some of these places had electricity and running water, and some did not. So we could see women by the edge of the water washing their clothes, washing their food, bathing. We also had the opportunity to purchase handmade textiles, art, and pottery, and I know all of us brought back something that we had purchased. Lots of somethings, yes. The children in the picture were our tour guide's children. He was our boat captain and tour guide, and he took us around the lake, and those were his kids, and his wife actually made textiles that some of us purchased. Let's see here. Funny side note, I don't have a picture of it here, but there was a sign, there was a banner in one town advertising the Super Bowl was going to be broadcast, so that was interesting. Here, now I got the next one too. All right, some of the other cultural activities. These are from 3 different afternoons there. We toured the city dump, and you can see in one of the pictures, the kids just gravitated to Ellen. They were hanging on her, and that was the village where everybody lived. There are 900 families that live in the city dump area, and they live in those tin shacks, basically. All of the city's garbage is brought to this dump, and the adults spend their days going through the trash looking for things of value to recycle or sell. And the bakery picture was a bakery within walking distance of our home base, and I know we all made one or several trips there. And I think that's everything from that picture. Oh, I'm sorry. The picture on your far right is Ixamshe. It was Mayan ruins that we visited, And this was an activity on one of our last days, and it's a Guatemalan national monument, and we were able to walk through the property. It was really peaceful out in the country, and it was a really great time to reflect on our time in Guatemala.
Another afternoon, we visited the Pacaya volcano. It was a great opportunity to see some more of Guatemala's natural beauty and for us to visit one of the many active volcanoes throughout the country. We were accompanied by Victor, our driver, an ever-willing partner to learn about everything and do as much as we could in our short time in Guatemala. It was a long hike up the volcano. We could purchase walking sticks, as you see Carol and Susan pictured there with their walking sticks. Or, as many of us found out, taking a horse ended up being a better alternative because we weren't quite acclimated to making such a long hike up a mountain, basically. On top of the mountain, we went into the active area where the lava rocks were, and you see Shannon and I roasting marshmallows on the lava rocks, where we all enjoyed a s'more together before watching the sunset, and then journeying down in the dark with the help of our guides and some lanterns. It was really a great day and an experience outside many people's comfort zones, but also really highlighted how beautiful Guatemala could be. One of our last cultural activities was a visit to the city of Antigua and to a jade factory and store. Virginia told us she wanted us to visit Antigua to see a different side of Guatemala than what we saw with the population we worked with in Guatemala City. Antigua is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, very historic and quaint. Incidentally, as some of us were flying out of the country, a volcano exploded and spread ash all over the city, particularly that middle lower photo you see of the colored building facades was just coated with ash from the volcano. We all got to purchase wares and jewelry from the jade store. We also found local artists in Antigua and enjoyed a fabulous dinner as a group together. You see our whole group there and reflected on our time in Guatemala together. Overall, our trip to Guatemala was an opportunity to learn on so many different levels. In 1 week, we were able to better understand a culture on a local level through interaction and experiences. We're able to get to know other league members across the association. We're able to realize how a little bit of work can make a big difference in someone else's life. And we were able to realize that emotions like joy can easily be communicated despite a language barrier. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shannon and Jill. And I can honestly tell you that all of us still feel so close to each other. I get emails all the time from people, and it was really a great experience on many different levels. And because of that, we have 2 cross-cultural solution trips in the 15-16 league year. Back to Guatemala in the fall, and next spring on to Morocco. So we hope that you will consider going and that some of your league members will consider going. I think the one thing that Jill and Shannon didn't tell you is that your trip is a tax deduction because of Cross-Cultural Solutions nonprofit status. So not only can you go and have a great experience, but again, it's also a contribution to a great organization. And so that's it for us. And as promised, we have left about 15 minutes for all of you. So if we could have the lights up, the floor is yours to share or ask or suggest anything that's on your minds. Can we have the floor lights on, please? So that we can see everybody in the audience. Are they coming? Okay, so it is, and I think we have microphones. Where are the microphones? There. So if you'd like to come to a mic and ask whatever is on your mind, please do. Or talk to each other.
Hi.
Yes.
Hi.
Okay, great.
Hi, it's Carla Gustafson from the Junior League of Calgary. My question is in regards to the budget. I noticed under marketing, and just an idea of what it's going to, but under marketing we have 93,000 for, I think it's for the connected, the printing of the connected strategy. Would that sound right?
It's the connected newsletter.
The connected, and we get that annually,
Yes,
once a year.
yes.
Is there value in asking the membership how many people read it as opposed to just logging on? And is that a potential saving for the AJLI? And maybe we shift those funds somewhere else?
I can tell you that we have that conversation every year.
Okay.
And, you know, it's really, when you think historically, there used to be a lot more connections, and people used to know a lot more. I mean, you're always challenging us to say, well, tell us what our members get for all of this. And up until, what, Ann, the mid-90s, 80s, there were lots of magazines and publications that came out from the association to the members. And they were all about what's going on in leagues, so people felt much more connected. And then all of that went away. And several years ago, we decided, well, at least one touch point a year might be a good thing. We're very seriously really looking at how we can reduce that. But for so many people, and I know this is stereotypical, there are members that still don't really log on all the time to see what's going on. And it does give us that one touch point with members so that they can get up to date about a lot of the important things that are happening in leagues. But believe me, Maureen talks to us about the cost of the newsletter every year.
Thank you.
So-
Would it be possible, just by a show of hands, how many people actually, like I know we all receive it, but how many people actually read it? I'd be curious.
Okay, straw poll.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm sorry? Yes, yes. So I thought that was a pretty fair number, yes? Okay. We know that some members tell us that they may not read it all at once, but they keep it around, and so they go back to it periodically. So anyway, but it's a great question, really great question. Thank you. Yes, down here in front.
Hi, Tara Ashmore, Junior League of Montclair and Newark. I'm just curious why we don't have an AJLI group on LinkedIn. I would find it incredibly useful for 3 different reasons. One would be to reach out to other league members when I'm looking for their expertise, particularly this past spring. I was looking to find other league members that had done some sort of IT implementation in their nonprofits so that I could benefit from their experience with that. I also think it would be a terrific way for new provisionals to see what the work experience is of other league members so they can reach out to us and we could be a mentor to them, both in their league experience and their professional experience. And I also thought it was curious to note that yesterday in one of the 12 slides and 12-minute presentations, a league, and I'm sorry, I think it was a league from Texas, had actually highlighted that they went on LinkedIn to find people that were interested in volunteerism in order for them to find new recruits to their league, and that they successfully found members in that manner. I do think that One Network is terrific. I think you guys are doing great stuff with technology, but I would caution you on thinking that One Network is going to solve all 3 of these components when 2 out of those 3 are people that are not yet within our network. I've seen large organizations, FANG, Financial Executives Networking Group. I've seen internal companies, Moody's, ADP, large Fortune 500 companies, try to push their membership to their internal site, but have failed in that regard. So I do ask you kindly to explore AJLI as a group that we can all connect through, in addition to One Network.
Sure, thank
Thank you.
you. You know, we do have a Facebook presence. I know. I know, it's not the same. Susan Chavez, you're our social media person. Would you like to say a few words? Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Susan Chavez, and for those of you who I have not had the pleasure of meeting, I manage social media for AJLI. So all the tweets and Facebook posts, that's me. So I'll start off by saying that as far as LinkedIn is concerned, we have what is called a company page, which is an official page on LinkedIn. So if you are a Junior League member and you want to list your volunteer activity, which LinkedIn now allows you to do, what will happen is as you type in Junior League, AJLI will come up and you will have a badge on your profile that shows your affiliation with AJLI. So that's the one thing that we are doing on LinkedIn. I will be very honest, it's much different from what we're doing on other social networks because it's a little bit more of a one-way street as opposed to a two-way street. And part of the reason is, well, one, I'm really the only person managing social media. And the other part of it is, and this is an issue that a lot of volunteer organizations are facing on LinkedIn with group pages, is that there's a lot of folks that are doing personal business solicitation on LinkedIn. And it's not productive to what the mission is of the organization. And to manage that volume of information that comes in, it takes a tremendous amount of time. And we have talked about possibly exploring a LinkedIn group that is moderated, but that sort of kind of goes against the spirit of social networking. I mean, we're happy to, come back to that, but I think I'm hoping that you all at least will visit our company page and, comment and interact with us there. Again, it's a little bit more of a one-way street because you can't post, but you can interact with the content that we're posting. And again, it's something that will actually show up on your LinkedIn profile when you're adding your volunteer experience.
Thank you, Susan. Okay, let's see. How come I can't? Oh, yes, over here.
Hi, Susan. Anna Pappas from Junior League, Evanston, North Shore. I love the One Network idea and where we're going with all of this. I mean, it's going to be amazing to connect all of us. The question I have is there any thought to creating maybe an ad hoc group from some of us users of Digital Cheetah or the Volunteer Matters to provide some input as you move forward to the One Network?
Michelle and Dave, would one of you like to comment about that? Hi, Michelle. This is our fearless IT and creative team. All of that One Network is done in a partnership between our creative director and our IT director.
All right, I have to lower the microphone. Hi, everybody. I'm Michelle Gorenstein. I'm the creative director, and I've been working on the One Network project for the last few years.
You have to get closer. It's hard to hear you.
Here I go. To answer your question, in terms of getting user groups together for Digital Cheetah and Closerware, we have not set that up yet, but you can create your own group share. Do you know about group share on the member site?
Yes, we have group share. I'm just talking about a select group of actual junior leagues that are using some of these technologies to provide insight into our experiences, insight into how do we make the One Network more useful for us.
Right. So what we have been doing for the last year and a half is building the plumbing, putting the technology in place underground to make the connections happen, and we're just at the very beginning stages of conceiving what those tools are going to look like and how those connections are going to happen for the user. And we will be connecting and looking for feedback from members across the organization. So we will be reaching out. So please do come by the tech table and let me know that you're interested in being one of those users that we share wireframes and bounce ideas off of.
Perfect.
Okay? Thanks.
Great. And anybody else in this room?
Yes,
if this is
ma'am.
a topic of interest to you, be sure to stop by the tech table. Yes.
Hi, I'm Amanda Seals from the Cobb Marietta Junior League, and there were several of us on this side of the room that did the Yikes, what is the league profile page? Is there more? We're trying to figure out how did we miss that we needed to start doing that, and how do we get that up and running, and any tips that you can give us?
Sure. Michelle, I think this is yours again.
Okay, so the league profile page, that is going to be a page that is where you share all the information about your league. The way to get that information onto your page is going to be through the league admin portal, which was just launched a few weeks ago. I have information at the tech table, and I can show you how to access that league admin area where you enter the information about your league's profile. The user view of all of that league profile information is not built yet because we are still in the stage of gathering the data, and the user view is what we are sketching out and about to get ready to build, and that's also one of the things we would like feedback on. So why don't you stop by the tech table, or anyone else interested or have any other questions about the league profile, and I'm more than happy to spend a little more time talking about that and what it could be and gathering your names so that you can be part of our feedback groups.
And so did that originally come through the email from AJLI to our office managers or to our presidents? We're just trying to figure out where we may have missed something coming on
There was
that.
an all-league email that was sent out about 2 weeks ago announcing the launch of the league admin portal. So any of your league leaders who are on the all-league email list should have received that.
Okay.
And we also have an archive of the league email that was sent on the member website. So if you need help finding that, please stop by the tech table. I'll be there right after service dialogue.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
So any more questions? Because our time is up. I just want to very briefly, and I'm going to assume there aren't any, so I just want to thank you hearty souls for staying here in this dark room when we're in sunny, beautiful Los Angeles, and we've kept you here. So there's the reception in the exhibit area, the marketplace. There's all kinds of things going on tonight over at the Westfield Mall that the Junior League of Los Angeles has organized, and a zillion million other great things to do in Los Angeles. So have a great evening, and again, thank you for coming.